Good morning, everybody. Today we look at chapter 3, focus on grammar through textual enhancement. Okay, so please look at it. Okay, so we have actually looked into processing instruction as an input-based approach to teaching grammar, focusing on grammatical forms through structure input activities. So as you actually know, PI, processing instruction, is an approach which is the combination of the form focus and the grammar focus, okay? Now we are going to examine another input approach, textual enhancement, okay? Textual enhancement, which will hopefully help English educators in their teaching grammar. So you can actually imagine, for example, you let your students see the written text, and then students may actually you ask your student to highlight any grammatical forms which they are interested in. This is kind called textual enhancement, or sometimes you can actually ask your students to try to listen, and then you actually give some stress to some important words. Okay, this is also kind of textual enhancement. So the question is, what is actually called textual enhancement? Okay, right. Okay, wait, everyone. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's go on. Okay. So the aim of this approach, okay, textual enhancement, is to raise learners' attention to linguistic forms by rendering input. Rendering input means providing input. Perceptually more salient means noticeable and more important, okay? So it means that this approach, textual enhancement, is actually providing input with some highlights so then students can notice and give more important attention to the certain input. Okay, this is you call textual enhancement. So how can we actually know that this is called textual enhancement? By underlining. Yeah, by underlining. You can ask students to underline. Bolding, yeah, making very black of some words, some phrases. Or italicizing, yeah. You can actually make italics of some words, like stress or repetition, okay? These are some of the features of the textual enhancement, okay? Right. So now we look at input and intake. As we mentioned in the previous chapter, what is input and what is intake, everyone? Actually, input is the raw data, the raw language, which is given to student the very first hand. So when student actually process the input, this will become intake, okay? All right, okay. Now, input defined as the sample of the target language that learners are exposed to. This is you call input. So when you actually give a piece of the language, okay, the target language to the students, this is the input. So student process it. Student actually have it in their mind. This will become intake, okay? All right, okay. Intake defined as what is registered in the learner's mind, okay? Intake, this one, everyone, yeah. And the fact that the learner is exposed to input does not necessarily guarantee that the input will become intake. Okay, so sometimes even though students are actually exposed to the input, but it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't 100% mean that the input become the intake. Okay, why? Because sometimes the input is actually beyond student capacity. They do not have any clue. Okay, so then it cannot become their intake. Okay, so thus the central question in series of L2 acquisition has been how input turns into intake and how it will eventually lead to the development of L2 competence. Okay, so how can the input become the intake? Okay, and develop to the second language competence. Okay, that is a question, everyone. Please continue. So input enhancement. Okay, input enhancement. Okay, so this chapter is actually focusing on the grammar through the textual enhancement. Textual enhancement. But now we look at input enhancement. Okay, input enhancement. What is input enhancement? Input enhancement is the process by which input is made more noticeable to the learner. Okay, yeah. So this is you call input enhancement. Please look at here. So types of input enhancement, you have explicitness and elaboration. Okay, explicitness and elaboration. Yeah, look at it. So explicitness, it concerns the degree of directness in how attention is drawn to form. This is so direct. So the teachers actually direct students to the forms. Okay, for example, like GTM, grammar translation method, where the forms actually highlighted the very first hand. This is quite explicit. Okay. While elaboration, usually repeated explanation or correction, has to do with the duration or intensity. Intensity mean how often, okay, how often, okay, to what extent, with which enhancement procedures take place. Okay, for example, teacher actually give a lot of corrections to student or explain again and again. This is elaboration. Okay, while explicitness, where teachers actually explain the forms, guide the student to the examples. Okay, this is explicitness. Okay. Now we look at the internal enhancement. Occurs when the learner notices the form himself or herself through the outcome of the internal cognitive processes or learning strategies. Okay, so if you look at internal enhancement, this is happened by the students themselves, where they actually try to notice themselves because they are given the input and then they learn by themselves. Okay, because of some learning strategies or cognitive processes. Okay, okay. While internal enhancement occurs when the form is noticed through the external agents. Who are the external agents? You have teachers or external operation carried out on the input. Okay, yeah. So it means that this is guided by someone. They lead you to the input, and then you start to actually notice the forms. This is you call external enhancement. Okay, all right. Okay, we look at textual enhancement. It is an input enhancement technique in teaching grammar. Actually, textual enhancement, this is a technique of input enhancement in teaching grammar, okay? So textual enhancement is an external form of input enhancement by which learner attention is drawn to linguistic forms through physically manipulating certain aspects of the text to make them easily noticed. Yeah, to make them easily noticed. For example, by what? By underlining, by bolding, by making italics, yeah, by sometimes by hearing, by like giving stress, intonation. Okay, this is a part of the textual enhancement. Okay, so you have okay, look at the characteristic of textual enhancement. You have a positive form of input enhancement. It means you guys student to the direct way, okay, to the form focus. Okay, so for example, you tell them this is present perfect. You highlight subject, have, has, and then verb 3. This is you call positive form. Okay, yeah, okay, mean very direct. Okay, explicit. For implicit form of input enhancement, it means actually the meaning, the focus is on the meaning, but then student actually uh, learn the form, you know, learn the grammar by themselves. Okay, yeah, this is explicit. Okay, from of input enhancement. Okay, and for textual enhancement attempts to make forms salient in the input. Okay, yeah, mean more important or more noticeable. Okay, yeah, this is this characteristic. However, textual enhancement does not involve any explicit instruction. Okay, yeah. So it's just like if you actually look at here, you just actually highlight, but you do not actually teach students directly about the present perfect or past simple or whatever. You don't actually teach them in detail. Okay, you just actually highlight, so then students actually start to learn more. Okay, over here. So the meaning and use must already be evident to the learner at the time that attention is drawn to the linguistic apparatus, mean forms, needed to get the meaning across. Okay, yeah. All right, so just like student, we have some more evidence, okay, to the meaning and to the use. They actually exposed to the forms, okay, so then they start to actually understand more. Okay, right. Textual enhancement in written text. Everyone, now we've looked at another one, another point. Textual enhancement in written text. In written text, certain target words are to be highlighted by means of textual modification, such as underlining, boldfacing, italicizing, capitalizing, color coding. Yeah, you can actually like give different colors to make different things. For example, red as the subject, blue as verb, and yellow as the object. This is you call color coding, or a combination of this. Okay, this is you call textual enhancement in written text. So then student can actually see. Okay, yeah. And for the textual enhancement in oral text, yeah, textual enhancement can also be used with oral text. Oral text, it means by speaking, okay, you can hear, okay. This can be made more noticeable by adding stress. Yeah, you actually give some stress to some important words. Yeah, intonation. Yeah, can actually have intonation or repetition of the targeted form. Yeah, repetition. Yeah, or even through gesture. Yeah, body movement or facial expressions. Yeah, also the oral text. Okay, all right. So can you now look at some examples of classroom activities, everyone? Yeah, some example of classroom activity. This is activity 1. Please read the text and then answer the following questions. Yeah, a girl decided to go cycling, so they actually italicize. Okay, they italicize cycling. Yeah, so they make it in italic words. Yeah. She called her friends and asked them, yeah, both, if they would be interested in joining her. Yeah, they thought that biking, yeah, biking, okay, would be an exciting, yeah, continue here, everyone, would be an exciting thing to do on such a hot day. The girl and her friends took her bikes up a steep road and went flying down the bell. Many hours later, they finished having their fun and went home again. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so this is how they actually make the textual enhancement by bolding, by uh, making italics. Okay, yeah. I think also highlighting here, but we don't see the color. Okay, everyone. Yeah. Okay. So now you can actually continue here to the question. Okay. Question: why did the girl call her friends? Yeah. Why did the girl call her friends? If because the girl called her friend because she want to know if they would be interested in joining her. So then they actually hide bolding, you know, bolding dumb if they, and then joining, italicize. Okay. And question 2, where did they go biking? Where? Where did they go biking? So you can actually look at there, everyone. Can you now go to the text and look at that? Okay. Well, you actually look at friends also bowl took their bikes up a steep road. Yeah, okay, steep road, and one flying down. Yeah, so then they actually italicize. Okay, italicize flying. So this is they want to actually stress, you know, where the big hill. Okay, the big hill. Did they enjoy biking? And you can actually see they actually say they finished having their fun and went home again having their fun. So they make italics of having. Okay, yeah, okay, okay. Let's continue to one more. Activity 2, everyone. Yes, can you now please read the activity 2 together? Yeah, activity 2. Can you read together? Activity 2. Okay. Please read the following text, then in groups of 2, discuss the following questions. The teacher has told me that I have homework today, so they boldface has told, yeah. So to signal that this is present perfect, and also have looked, also present perfect, and has, yeah, has ever worked, also present perfect, have needed, also present perfect. So now you can actually look at the question. Okay, can you now look at the question? Yeah. Has anything like this ever happened to you as a student? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Question 1. We will discuss this question in the discussion panel too. Okay. Yeah. And question 2. What do you think the problem with the student homework has been? Okay. Yeah. Do you think homework is useful? Yeah. 4. Do you think homework will help learners to study harder? Yeah. So please keep these 4 questions, and we will talk in the discussion panel in the live Zoom meeting, everyone. Okay, this is all you learned today. Okay, in this chapter, we actually look at textual enhancement as a technique to draw learner attention to grammatical form in input. However, to be most effective, textual enhancement needs to include more explicit forms of enhancement, including various forms of input and output-based practices and corrective feedback. Okay, so textual enhancement is a good technique to actually draw learner attention to the grammatical form of input already, but students need a lot of practice. Okay, a lot of exposure to forms. Okay, of input and output best practices, and they need a lot of feedbacks to actually improve more, right? So these are the discussion questions which we also use this in the discussion panel. Can you please now look at the 5 questions, okay? Question 1, what is input enhancement? 2, how many types of input enhancement are there? Yeah, you need to describe, okay? Describe the steps to be taken when designing textual enhancement. And 4, what should teacher do if students have problems with their listening to them? This is related to textual enhancement, everyone. And 5, discuss about the effectiveness of textual enhancement, okay? So these 5 questions we also discuss in the panel discussion in live Zoom meeting. And thank you for your attention for today, everyone. And this is the reference that I actually use, okay? Okay. So thank you. See you soon.